Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Well, originally, I wanted to come on here and discuss how I would trade a first-round pick for Yannick Ngakoue. I believe that with the philosophy of the Philadelphia Eagles, being able to go after a 24-year-old stud, a difference maker, now, it would take a very high draft pick. It would take $20+ million per year, so it would be a serious investment by the Eagles front office and Howie Roseman. I totally understand that. I just think it fits the mold for what the Eagles like to do when it comes to building a roster. They like to literally dive right into the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and build with those two identities and find ways to incorporate great talent around that, which I don't think is the wrong way to go about it whatsoever. So I really wanted to discuss how I would do that, and then I see the news that Robby Anderson signed with the Carolina Panthers for 2 years, $20 million. Then I see the news that Perriman is signing with the Jets, and those were the two names. By the way, that contract was for about $8 million, $6 million guaranteed, only 1 year, so it's not a huge investment. When I saw those names come off the board, I feel like that told me the Eagles are 100% in on the draft when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Now, Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher of Inside the Birds, they are reporting that as of right now, the Jags are not shopping Yannick Ngakoue, although we understand where sports are these days. It is all about the players owning the league, the players pretty much having all the power, and he's posting things on Instagram, Reggie White pictures, Philadelphia Eagles emojis. Like, it's clear that he is either teasing the fan base or he really wants out of there and wants to be in Philadelphia. The players hold all of the cards. So my point of that part of this is, at the end of the day, whether they claim he's being shopped or not at this very moment, if the player wants to get out, most likely he will, because franchise tag is in play, not re-upping a contract with that organization. Why would the Jags not move on from him and try to acquire as many assets as possible if they know someone is unhappy, if they know he is not going to re-sign a contract in Jacksonville? So just because right now they are claiming it's not available, he's not available, it doesn't mean that's the way this is all going to shape out. I just don't know, after letting Robby Anderson go and letting Perriman go to other places, I just don't know if the Eagles are willing to go in a different direction. I believe the wide receiver draft is so deep, it's so deep, that if you can go out and land a guy who will change your defense for years to come, based off of the way the Eagles play defensively, with the pass rush, having Fletcher Cox, going out and getting Hargrave, having Malik Jackson, having Brandon Graham, I totally would do it. And with the depth in the draft at wide receiver, you can still go out and land a wide receiver who can be truly impactful to this team in the second round, in the third round. I mean, look around the league, look around all these drafts. You see players in every single round at the wide receiver position find ways to impact their team. The problem is you got the Eagles drafting J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and drafting players that don't work at that position, which I understand. I understand that that is a huge issue, but my point is they are available. These players are available. There is so much talent available to go out and get outside of the first round when it comes to the wide receiver position. If I was the Eagles front office, I would do it. I don't think they are going to. Allowing the two best free agent wide receivers who aren't even that lethal, okay? It's not like these guys are huge difference makers. Robby Anderson can totally stretch the field, and good for him, the Temple guy, to go play with Matt Rule in Carolina. I think that would be so awesome to play college football, D1 college sports, and then go on to the pros and play for your former coach. I think that would be an awesome thing, so good for him, and I think he will be really solid with Teddy Bridgewater and that whole entire coaching staff. I think those players are good, and Perriman, he gets injured, but he did have a good He had a good season with the Buccaneers, but overall, injury problems totally played a factor in his career. These aren't legit difference makers, but when you look at what's now left, it seems clear that, hey, listen, the Eagles are totally going to go with the draft mindset with this position. I'm not going to be mad. Let me make this clear. I'm not mad if they stay where they are. They are happy and satisfied with the Darius Slay, with the Will Parks, going after a linebacker in Brown, acquiring Hargrave. That's a really solid start by Howie Roseman. I'll be honest with you. I'm very satisfied with all of those moves. And if they stay where they're at now in free agency, and they attack the draft the way they do, and maybe they make a random trade. I mean, Howie Roseman has done this in the past, later on in free agency, before the season starts. We saw the move with Jordan Matthews for Ronald Darby, so he has made moves like that before, and we even seen it in season. It ended up happening with Jay Ajayi. He would make a little move here or there that maybe can impact this team offensively as well. I just think that the free agency moves might be done. Now looking at Anderson and looking at Perriman, if they were to go out and get a Yannick Ngakoue, who I think is a beast. I mean, he is a dog. He can get to the quarterback. And then also factor in who he would be playing around. We're talking Fletcher Cox. We're talking Hargrave, Brandon Graham. I mean, it would just be so hard to stop. Who do you focus on? If you are the opposing team, who would you focus on? Fletcher? Okay, well then the other guys are going to eat. Are you going to focus on Hargrave? Okay, well, I mean, my point is pretty much easy to comprehend right now. There would be so many studs on that defensive line that it would be so hard to stop this team. And then we talk about, well, who's going to play opposite side of Darius Slay? While Darius Slay is shutting down their best wide receiver, the opposing quarterback doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the ability to sit in the pocket and take his time for his receivers to get open so he'd be able to target whoever's playing the opposite side of Darius Slay. Like, it just wouldn't be a spot where the quarterback has the time to be able to make that stuff happen. So I just like the Yannick Ngakoue possibility. In my brain, it is something that I would totally look into. The price tag is a factor. So it would make sense to not go after Robby Anderson for 2 years, $20 million, if you had to sign Yannick Ngakoue to $20+ million a year, right? Absolutely. You look at Perriman, 1 year, $8 million. Would you take a chance on that? See, that's a guy, that's more of a contract that I feel disappointed with rather than a Robby Anderson. It seemed like because Robby Anderson was at the top of the free agency list and knowing the Eagles weren't willing to spend top money in the wide receiver market, it didn't feel like it would be a landing spot for the Eagles. And I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. It just, based off of how much money he would probably get, although he was looking for more and he didn't get as much as he went in there thinking, he still got double digits per year. Well, I think the way it's broken out, it might be $12 million over the first year, but regardless, it's 2 for 20. So he got a lot of money, and I just didn't see the Eagles or Howie Roseman going with that approach from the jump. Perriman, though, I feel like with where they are at, it needed to be addressed, and I would have liked to at least take a chance on Perriman. Sure, you're talking about a good amount of money for a guy who has been banged up and you don't know truly what he is. It's not like you automatically know what type of receiver you are getting out of Perriman. You talk about Robby Anderson, I think you know what you're getting. You're getting a speed guy. You're getting a guy who can totally fly downfield. He can stretch the field. You are getting that type of player. You don't know what you're getting with Perriman, but when you look at the roster, Alshon Jeffrey, see you later, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the kid can't play, he can't run routes. I mean, it really is an embarrassment when you go back and look at the tape and see what kind of routes he ran and running into players. It truly was awful. It really was. And what, Greg Ward? Deshaun Jackson, yeah, that's a phenomenal name, but let's be real. He has to stay healthy. And to be fair, I don't think he's going to be a player that plays 1.5 games, one game. He probably will give you 10 of 16. I mean, that's realistically what I would be satisfied with. 8 would be underwhelming. 7 would be underwhelming. 9 would probably be underwhelming. Anywhere from 10 to 16, I would be happy with out of Deshaun Jackson, and I totally don't think it's going to be closer to that 16 mark. So, you don't really know in terms of health what you were getting out of Deshaun Jackson. That's why you go out and get a Perriman, because it can't hurt. I mean, it just can't hurt to be able to grab someone like that, even though he's not a proven guy. At this point, you are so thin and you are so raw at that position. I feel like you need to take a chance on a guy like that, because if he does become successful, if he can fill a certain role, it will change this offense tremendously. And speaking of this offense, I just feel like it's so funny that there's like this conversation about trading Zach Ertz, and there's this fascination behind trading Zach Ertz because there was contract talks earlier in last season and things didn't get worked out. He declined it. Like, what is the fascination with trading Zach Ertz? Because Dallas Goedert is there. The Eagles, in my opinion, and I got into an argument with Mike Gill of 97.3 ESPN about this. Well, I said that the Eagles want to play 12 personnel. That is what they want to do. And Gill doesn't believe they want to do that. He thinks they are forced to do that based off of their personnel and having 2 tight ends. And they drafted Dallas Goedert knowing that they had Zach Ertz. So they had the mindset of this is what we are going to be when they went out and got Dallas Goedert. So I think they want to play 12 personnel. This whole narrative that, we have Dallas Goedert, let's get rid of Zach Ertz and trade him for other pieces and getting all these assets back, I don't think that is the right mindset whatsoever. Having these 2 players is what makes this offense what it can be if there is wide receivers available. When you don't have wide receivers to stretch the field, it changes things totally. But I think Dallas Goedert has what he has had in his career. Like, he's had the career so far because of Zach Ertz. You are now having their best defenders up against Zach Ertz. What Zach Ertz brings to the table is insane, and it actually opens up other situations for a guy like Dallas Goedert. Now, I like Dallas Goedert a lot. I'm not trying to make it seem like he isn't good, like he can't play, like he can't be a factor without Zach Ertz. I truly believe that he can be. But Zach Ertz opens the field up for other players. Their best defenders target him. When you are talking about film sessions and studying film, other teams the week before they come to Philadelphia or the week before the Eagles come to their barn, who do you think they're watching? Who do you think they're focusing on? It's so obvious. The answer is Zach Ertz. He is their main guy. He's their big target, so that allows someone like Dallas Goedert to maybe fly under the radar and get other opportunities. I think Dallas Goedert is one hell of a player, but, I mean, really, I'm not just moving on from Zach Ertz. Why? He's 29 years old. Is it because this whole conversation about getting younger, let's get younger? I mean, yes, I do believe that they need to get younger, and you saw Will Parks, and you saw Brown, and you see that they're moving on from Malcolm, and you understand they moved on from Jason Peters, which I don't even know if they truly did yet, because if Jason Peters doesn't get anything on the market, I feel like it's very possible that he returns to this organization, and that sure would be very interesting to see, and I wouldn't put it past Howie Roseman at all, because when you listen to, or at least read, not the article that they put out, but the press release when they elected to move on from Jason Peters, they kind of left the door open. They allowed it to still be a little bit open, just in case I feel like this situation worked out the way that it is being worked out at this very moment. You still need veteran players as well. Getting younger, yes, but it doesn't mean every single move that you make has to be younger. Zach Ertz, I feel like the right move is staying here. I feel like he wants to be here. I feel like the organization wants him to be here. Being here is going to be the answer for Zach Ertz. And also, think about this. Carson Wentz, there's been a lot of controversy about what type of guy he is in the locker room and can he keep this team together, Josina Anderson, all that crap, all that garbage. Him and Zach Ertz are like best friends. And I know you don't just keep someone here because they're best friends. If that was the case, I feel like Jordan Matthews would still be in this locker room, and he does weirdly seem to find his way back year after year after year after year. So that is somewhat funny. But there is something to be said about him being really good friends with Carson Wentz. And I don't think it would sit well with Carson if you have Zach Ertz leaving this locker room. And to be fair, it's not like Carson Wentz makes those decisions. He does not make those decisions. It shouldn't come down to what Carson Wentz wants. Well, you should have a little bit of a say, but it doesn't come down to what Carson Wentz, demands or anything. I just think that is part of the equation, how close that they really are. And he is such a huge part to this offense. It would change it to like a whole nother level. And I don't think it would change it for the best. Although if you get Zach Ertz in a trade, you are probably giving up a ton of assets, so that would be interesting to see what type of value he has, but I'm not doing it, and I don't get the fascination behind it. I truly just don't get it. It came out of nowhere, and these Julio Jones reports, which is so false, it's so out there, that's like some random blog throwing it out there and people running with it on Twitter. While you have Zach Ertz, who, for the most part, is out there competing with the boys. So I don't understand why Julio Jones would be this guy that everyone's all so pumped about. As soon as I saw that, one, I didn't believe it, but two, I laughed. This league, it's a copycat league. We all know that. Look at the tight end position. Look at the tight end. Look at these teams that are lethal. I mean, tight ends are such a big part of the game right now. All these teams, they want tight ends. Travis Kelce, I mean, he's phenomenal. Zach Ertz, phenomenal. Hooper, who just got a contract with the Browns, great player. People want tight ends in this league. Gronk. And look what the Patriots did without him. Clearly, they struggled. They didn't have weapons elsewhere, but clearly they struggled when losing him, and everybody knew it would be big-time trouble when they lost him. Is it possible that this team comes out worse at the wide receiver position than last year? Going into the season, that is. Like, going into this next season, is it possible that this team is worse than what it was last year during the playoffs? Boy, I hope not. I mean, it would be an epic collapse by this front office and Howie Roseman if that is the case. But just seeing how everything's being unfolded, it just seems like it is the way that they're going with this. Draft, get their guys, get these young players, speed guys who can catch the football in the draft. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't know if there's enough veteran leadership in the wide receiver core. You have Deshaun Jackson. Unless their plan is to keep Alshon Jeffrey, but he's not going to be healthy for quite some time. And I don't believe that they are trying to keep Alshon Jeffrey unless they believe that cap space is so... Not the cap space, but the dead cap hit would be really brutal to them. They believe that keeping him, no matter what, no matter if the controversy in the locker room was all about him, they feel like he should stay. Then it would be Deshaun and Alshon and all the young cats. It just seems like, in my mind, I already write Alshon Jeffrey off. Whether that's right or wrong, I already write him off, and I feel like he is not part of this team. So with that being said, and running with my mindset, whether that is right or wrong, as I stated, I don't care. For this scenario, I'm taking him out of the equation. If you just have Deshaun Jackson, and then from there, it's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Greg Ward, and a couple young cats you draft. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it will not work, because if they draft the right guys, I believe it will work. I just feel like you do need some sort of experience at the wide receiver position, and I know Deshaun Jackson is one hell of a veteran who has played a ton of games, bearing those injuries, and he's been around and truly developed as a person, as a professional too, so that definitely holds value. I just don't know what to expect with a bunch of young guys playing the wide receiver position. But we mentioned 12 personnel and how important Zach Ertz is with Dallas Goedert. So if you have Zach Ertz, if you have Dallas Goedert on the field, if you have Deshaun Jackson on the field, and that's a big if, how many other wide receivers are going to be on the line of scrimmage during those plays as well? Now, it's not like that's the only personnel they run, but it is one of their better packages that they do run majority of the time. So it's weird. It's a weird spot for this Eagles team. I look at where they're at now, and I feel like I'm definitely satisfied at this very point. You say, Broads, are you cool with what Howie Roseman did? Are you cool with what the Eagles did to this very point? And I can say yes. I mean, Malcolm Jenkins, that hurt. That loss definitely hurt, but you acquired Darius Slay. I don't think that's a wash. I think Malcolm Jenkins has more value, than Darius Slay. It's close, though. It's definitely close. I just think the Eagles have never had a corner like this in years. I mean, a guy they can trust, a legit stud who can change the game and really shut down opposing wide receivers. You can put anywhere on the field. You can line up with any wide receiver, and he will totally be in play. Will there be plays where he gets beat? I mean, absolutely. That's called football. That's the NFL. That's how this bad boy works. Good cornerbacks, they get beat. I mean, you just don't win on defense. Yes, at times you do with an interception and things, but more times than not, it's just like basketball. Great offense beats elite defense. That's just the way it works in the sport of basketball. Well, when you're a cornerback, it's almost the same thing. It doesn't mean in basketball when you're defending someone you can't get a steal and go get a fast break dunk. Of course you can. But majority of the time, it's pretty simple. Great defense gets beat by great offense. And I just think, though, going back to corner, I think Darius Slay is awesome. He's phenomenal. He's a corner this team has never had. But with Malcolm Jenkins and what he brought to the table as a full leader, as full everything, it's like Malcolm Jenkins is a 10 and Darius Slay is like a 9. So in terms of that, it's a close fix. It's a close hole. Like, if you're talking about filling the hole, super close to filling it, but not all the way. But then you add Hargrave. And I think Hargrave is just an awesome pickup as well. I'm not going to sell you that Will Parks and Brown are these two guys that are big-time difference makers, but I like Will Parks more. I think he can be that guy who can fill in if there's a big-time injury. He can be that guy that can rotate as a third safety. Like, there's definitely something to be said about that, but I can't relate that to how powerful of an impact Hargrave and Darius Slay can have. So you lose Malcolm, but you pick up two guys in Hargrave and Slay that I am really, really, really intrigued by. So I do like that a lot, and I like that they're sitting in a spot to go after some guys in the draft that I think really can be beneficial to this team. Even though, as I stated, deep down my gut tells me if Hunter Broads was the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, I would be picking up the phone for someone like Yannick Ngakoue just because I know the way that this team runs. I know the way that this team plays defense, and with that type of rush, it would be something that teams would have so many issues with, and that will be beneficial too. As I stated, the guy playing opposite of Darius Slay, which might be Sidney Jones. And here's something about Sidney Jones. Did he make a couple plays last year towards the end? Yes, absolutely. He got thrown in there. Jones, go make a play. And he did a couple times, and it was awesome. And we know his injury history. There's this report out there that he's working with this guy who works around the league with some other good players, good corners, and that makes me happy. It's not like I look at that as a negative. I don't look at that as a negative whatsoever. I find that a positive thing. That makes me feel good. I see that he's working, competing, he has a good mindset, he wants to be better, he wants to develop as a player. That makes me happy. But I do find it funny that automatically these Eagles fans out there like, here we go, baby, Sidney Jones, he's going to be elite, he's going to be a shutdown guy, breakout season. That may happen, don't get me wrong, and I would want that to happen. I do. I want someone to step up and really take control of that other side of Darius Slay, so then we can have this crazy defense that people struggle with every single time they play the Birds on Sunday or Monday or Thursday, depending on the week. I just don't feel like because he's working out with a guy that automatically now means he is going to have this breakout season, and I am just in love. Now, I fell for that a bunch of times throughout my career here as a fan of Philadelphia sports. I fell for that with Ben Simmons in the summer, knocking down jump shots. I fell for that all the time. And I just feel like at this point, I am no longer doing that. So maybe because I've been scarred by situations in the past, I have a different mindset. I'm sorry. Until I see it, I won't believe it. And that's the mindset I'm going with. Because I was fooled by the Sixers as a whole. I was fooled by the Eagles last year as a whole. Super Bowl champs going into the season. Not even close. 9-7. Sixers, NBA champions. Not even close. This has been a miserable season. Can't win a damn road game. Phillies, I thought that they would be better than they were. last year when they went into the season and they ended up being absolutely awful by the end. Another epic collapse. I mean, things just fell apart completely. Until I see the product, I don't get sucked in anymore. And that means with Sidney Jones as well. That's what that means. And I feel like that kind of correlates to, I like the fact that Yannick Ngakoue is a proven guy. Now, I saw some reports out there by some respected people who follow the Eagles, and they were asking the question, it's not like it's Khalil Mack. So why get so excited? Like, why are you getting so excited for someone who's not like Khalil Mack? And he's not Khalil Mack. Who is Khalil Mack, though? That's my question. You can still be excited about a guy who can change your defense. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.